Number 8.
Episode 8. Oh,
Episode 8. Let's be great. Come on.
that's the
Hit me.
intro. Welcome.
That's it. We're done.
Coach Stacchiotti, go. What's up, guys? Summer is rolling. It's crazy to think that we are right here in middle of July, about to be the end of July, and August is amongst us. It is hotter than all get out. You'll hear me reference that here in a minute. But we're going up north for this one. I think this is our first one going that high. I agree. We're going up into the upper echelon of the United States here to talk with Coach Stacchiotti from Pittsburgh. And
Pittsburgh.
He's a fireball, man. He's an absolute fireball. This was a super fun episode. We got into a lot of different things.
And it's funny, man, just in a casual conversation before we got on, realized we got some few degrees of separation with Strongman and his upbringing in Youngstown, guy Mike Bartos. So shout out to you, Mike, if you watch this. But yeah, man, it's always cool to just kind of see how worlds collide when just strength is involved, right? So you never know what you're going to get, never know who you're going to meet, and never know what you're going to hear. So I was excited for this episode, man. It was real good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You guys are going to love it. We break down a bunch of different things. I will say this was something I was trying to do the whole episode. I finally got the Youngstown out of Coach Stacc, and you guys will see when it happens. It's about the 30-ish minute mark. You'll see it happen. So don't fast forward. Watch the whole thing. Here's a great conversation with Coach Stacc. Coach Stacc, great to see you, man. It's been a hot summer. I don't know how it is in Pittsburgh, but I just walked out here to my office and the walls are sweating inside, which is never a good thing. So I hope you guys get a little relief seeing how you're a little more north, but I know you like it probably hot and heavy.
Yeah, it's been a hot summer up here as well. There's times where I felt like I was back down in Tampa or Mississippi, but I still love it,
Come on. That's Stark Vegas. I know you're used to it in Tampa. I'm sure there's a little breeze coming off that water, but you're a Youngstown, Ohio guy. I mean, Ike, this guy played fullback, linebacker. He's from Ohio.
Come on.
He's a strength coach. I mean, Coach Stacc, you're the perfect
dabbled in strong, man. We discovered.
Exactly.
So, hey, he's all around.
He's the perfect football dude. I want to know what being like Coach Narduzzi for the last 5 years or going on 5 years has been like, because he's a football dude too, and I know that has to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's great. Coach Deuce is exactly like all the guys from Youngstown.
Exactly.
He's Italian.
He played or coached at Youngstown. Like he's that guy. He's that guy.
His dad was a longtime coach at Youngstown State and athletic director at Youngstown State. Coach Deuce started out playing at Youngstown State, and we always have ties. He references back. He went to Youngstown Ursuline High School where, I had some time training with me and Isaac were talking with Mike Bartos when I was in high school and college. So that was my first mentor. So I was always down in that dungeon in Youngstown Ursuline working out. Yeah, I mean, Coach Deuce he's the best, man. And, for me, I always look, want to work for people. We want to work with people. And he's definitely a guy that allows you to work with them. And just personable. You feel like you're part of his family when you're with him. He's tough, but he's, just a great guy.
And Coach, how is that, working with a guy like that who just kind of, supports everything you do and makes you feel like you're part of the family? How does that make your job easier as the head strength coach?
Oh, it means the world, man. You're here all day. This is a job where, you willingly have to be selfless. So when you have a coach that's on top of you, that's, also selfless and cares about the players and the process and the culture, and it means the world. And the fact that, it's a human being that you're working for, and, you could talk to just like any other guy. It's fantastic. It means the world.
Yeah, he's an old school dude, right? And he's gritty and he's a defensive guy, and he just loves all of that. I thoroughly enjoy every and all interactions I have with him. So to work with him every day, I'm sure is really fun. Let's back it up a little bit here, man, because you kind of referenced your upbringing and first mentors. I mentioned that you were the perfect football player playing fullback and linebacker. Where'd the whole strength coach thing kind of come from? Have you always liked that? Did you kind of fall into it? What's been your path there?
Yeah, weird path. I think Well, growing up, my dad was a offensive lineman at Division I offensive
I
lineman.
saw pictures of your dad. He looked pretty big. What's the specs on Pops, man?
My dad, so this was crazy. My dad was 6'5", just under 6'6". Majority of my life, he was 300 pounds.
Wow.
The dude can, he used to have a cigarette in his mouth and dunk a basketball, like just standing there straight up and down. But yeah, my dad was a big guy. He was a double amputee from diabetes. And the crazy thing, I don't know how they measured it. This is what he claimed. He said he was 5'8" with no legs. I was like, that's impossible. But he was a big guy. And but I was the youngest of three boys. My oldest brother, Russ, he was always a little bit bigger guy, strong, just, had like that farm boy strength. I don't know what it was. Not that we have farmed in Youngstown or anything. My brother, Jimmy, was taller. He was fast, he's skinny. So when we fought, his knuckles would crack you really good. And then there was me. So naturally, I wasn't, I'm 6 foot in the right pair of boots. And so I got in the weight room, but I think when I was 14, 15 years old, Mike Bartos, who makes strongman equipment that me and Isaac were talking about prior to this, he was my strength coach when he was like 18 years old. And he came to Girard High School, and I just fell in love with that process. I became a gym rat doing powerlifting, strongman, competitive movements, and really just kind of piggybacked. He's very smart and knowledgeable, and I realized that this was a career path you could take. So I kind of delved into it, got into exercise science as soon as I went to Baldwin Wallace University, was going to double major with physical therapy. They had an orthopedic assessment and treatment minor that was kind of the same classes without physics. So I went that route, and the rest is history, man. So probably since I was 14, 15 years old, I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach.
So at that point, was football kind of just something you did on the side and you already knew, like, full force, strength and conditioning was what your end goal was?
Strength and conditioning was always my end goal.
Okay.
Right. But I love football. I was that guy. Like I bled for high school football, played Division III football. Like I loved it.
That's at its purest form, dog. Cause you're doing it for the love of the game. You're doing it for the love of the game.
You got to love it to play D3 football, man. But I had fun, and I got to play fullback, which was awesome, but I never got the ball.
Unbelievable. Who do we need to make a call to right now, by the way?
I got some people. But no, I had so much fun, man. I like the contact. I like hitting. That's I will never say I was a great athlete or good football player, but I could hit, and I had fun doing that. And I think I was definitely though one of those guys that played to train rather than train to play.
Come on, baby. Come on. There's nothing wrong with that. You need a couple of those guys. We put them on the bus first and on kickoff return, and fullback and linebacker. That's what those guys are for. I want to back up again 1 second because something you said was really interesting before Ike jumps into some of these stops with Mississippi State and Colorado State and all these other places. You mentioned how big your dad was and two other brothers. I had to imagine discipline came pretty easily in your house. What was growing up like with a D1, lineman dad and then two other brothers? Y'all are probably just fighting over everything.
Oh, I mean, we were pretty disciplined. Honestly, my mom. She was the weapon there. I understand that. She was the hammer.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun. I grew up in the neighborhood. It's stereotypical. Girard, north part of Youngstown, Ohio. There's a Italian community, a bunch of kids around my age, and we're running around. We're playing football all day. We're playing baseball in the street, boxing. Like just doing random stuff, and it was fun. I think we just had not so much a discipline. My mom would take control when she needed to, but I think just the character of the parents I had is what resonated to us having a discipline. Because you take after the rules of your parents. So we had great examples growing up. And obviously not only parents, but members of the community of Girard, Ohio. We had so many, role models to look up to, rather be coaches, fathers on the streets, whatever it may be. I think that's instilled through your upbringing.
So, Coach, coming from Youngstown, Ohio, and, like you said, a couple of these stops on the way in your strength and conditioning career, what was the path you took that ultimately led you to Mississippi State?
It was a weird path, man. So I had an extra semester of school. So I was coaching at Girard High School as a head strength coach, helping out with the linebackers and wherever they needed me on offense, really. So I worked there, and A lot of my friends told me that I couldn't get into strength and conditioning unless I knew somebody. A guy from Girard named Mike Cochran was a head strength coach at Marshall. Time I was coming out of college, he was at Youngstown State. So I thought that was my in. I could just, go live at home, go intern for Mike Cochran for a bit and see how it goes from there. Well, he couldn't get me to intern with him. His old assistant was Joe Madej that was at Louisville. He couldn't get me in. So I was like, I'm dead in the water. I thought I was going to end up going to the military. So I was talking to recruiters, but I was actually so banged up from football. Like my shoulders were trashed, it trashed my knee. I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to go to the military. So my backup plan was just to move up to Alaska and do commercial fishing.
Dude, you are a man. You are a man's man. The military doesn't work. I'm just going to go fish in Alaska and try to make it.
I didn't, there's nothing else I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a strength coach. And everybody's telling me, I had, Brian Ellis, he's a strength coach at Baylor. He was interning with the Cleveland Browns, where we went to school right there in Berea. The Browns facilities were there. And I saw how he got in, but he was telling me he had to know somebody. Max Wagner was a hard-nosed D tackle we had from Menor. He interned at Northwestern. He kind of told me the same thing. So those were two of my buddies that were straight shooters. I'm like, well, I'm done. But I ended up going home and I threw out my resume because I didn't think I would get accepted into, officer candidate school or anything. So I was like, I'm just throwing my resume out as a last ditch effort. I woke up the next morning and I had a call from a 614 area code, which is Columbus, Ohio. I thought it was one of my buddies wanted me to go visit him in Columbus. It was Brady Collins. Who's now the head strength coach at Wisconsin.
Wow.
Brady, I had a buddy of mine from Youngstown State, Tommy Sprague. He was interning down there at Mississippi State Christian Clinic, played at University of Mount Union, which was a rival school. So they vouched for me. Brady asked me when I could get down there. I said, I'll leave right now. He said, no, seriously. And I said, yeah, I'll just pack a bag and go. I didn't even know where Starkville was. And that's basically what I did. I drove through 2 blizzards, slept on a couch, moved equipment the whole day. They're getting ready to go to the Orange Bowl. That was the year that, with the DAC and all that.
Oh, yeah, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went down there, reviewed, got accepted the intern position. They said, come back down there in 2 weeks. I didn't even know if I had enough gas money to get back up to Youngstown. So we figured it out, and I ended up going down to Mississippi State, and I was fortunate. Quinn Holland, Walter Reeves, there were 2 interns that were down there. I slept on the couch for, the time I was there, and it just worked. That's how it worked.
Wow.
Man. So, in this profession, and it kind of seems like it doesn't matter what the era is with strength and conditioning. It's like you got to know somebody, you got to have an in, so on and so forth. At what point do you tell someone coming up, like, your education matters, get your certifications, and then, what other alternative is there besides, or you got to just know somebody, knowing what you know now at this point?
Yeah, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. If whatever your goal is, right? It's a strength and conditioning coach, be a CEO of a company, whatever it is. This is what we tell the guys here. You have to take risks. You have to take calculated risks. And at the same time, you have to go, pedal your ass and get the job. You can't sit there and hope.
Right.
You have to be able to put yourself in a position where somebody can't say no. You have to put yourself in a position where you can achieve your dreams and do what you want to do. Because too many people make excuses like, you need to know anybody. Well, I could easily just accepted that. And, I've been crabbing. I've been, anchoring. You know what I mean?
King crabbing, baby.
Yeah. I get on Deadliest Catch or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the reality is, no matter what it is, whatever your goal may be, nobody can tell you what you're going to do. You have to decide what you're going to do and what actions you're going to take to do it. And you have to be methodical about it. You can't just, throw crap at the wall and see what sticks. But, don't be scared. Don't be passive. Be aggressive in the pursuit of your dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be ready for that when it happens. I mean, they called you from Mississippi. You could have been like, oh, that's way too far from home. Yeah. No way. And here you are, a handful of years later, accepting the head job at Pittsburgh. I mean, it happens fast once you get in there, but you have to sleep on a couch. You have to work those late hours. And if you don't, guess what? Somebody else will right behind you. I mean, 100%. The same thing with what we do. Everybody wants to do that job. Everybody wants to do your job. How are you willing to separate yourself? How are you willing to put in the extra effort and the hours that number one, keep you there, but number two, will elevate you over time. And I think your career has been such a epitome of that it should be inspiring for others, hopefully, when they're listening to this or really hear this. I do want to pause for just a second because I keep hearing this banging in the background. What the heck's going on in there? Do we have a group? Do we have extra credit? What's going on in the weight room?
We got the staff pump going on right now. I got
even better.
I got a fantastic staff. I have Michael Ray, Parker Shower, Sam Medlock, and Khalid Blunt here. I mean, they're unreal, and they get after it. We have our morning groups. I think they just digested lunch, if that.
Come on.
Getting after it. So.
I love that. I'm getting the afternoon in too. As soon as we're done here, I'm jumping into it. I prefer early morning, but you got to do what you got to do. All right, going back into it. You went from Mississippi State, then you went to Colorado State, Cincy, back to Mississippi State, and then you went to the NFL. I am fascinated to know the difference, and we can spend some time here, however you want to do it, on training collegiate guys, being the head guy, collegiate guy, but also training the NFL, because I have to think it is night and day different on how you do things.
I mean, a little bit, and the biggest thing with strength and conditioning, no matter where you're at, rather it be the National Football League, college or high school or junior high school, whatever it may be, there's principles that apply, and there's 1,000 methods to achieve those principles. So no matter what, as long as it's principle backed, you're going to be correct. Now, the big thing with the National Football League that was different was you have athletes that have been playing for a decade or longer at the highest level, on top of what they've done in high school, college, everything. So you have to take care of those guys a little different. Now, and the other thing is you don't really have an off season in the NFL, which is drastically different than college. So the guys go away, they have a couple months before they have to report to OTAs. They're with their personal trainers. They might go back to their college, whatever it may be. You're sending out the program. You're staying in contact. You're working with their personal trainers. So you have to swallow your ego and be able to communicate and see what guys are doing while they're away. Where here, you see absolutely everything that everybody's doing. The other thing, too, is, in the National Football League, you're trying to get guys, they're car wrecked after a Sunday. In college, it's the same way, too. You have to take care of the guys. The NFL is different. There's no average in the National Football League.
Right. It's literally every single guy is the best of the best.
The best of the best. And they're not only the best of the best, they're fighting for a job. Just college is the same, but it's a little different. So you have to take into account those stressors, but the resources as well. They have more money, so they can exploit more resources. But that's the thing about college too. We put in more for recruiting, so we get to provide a little bit more resources at times.
So, yeah, that part is fascinating too. And it's funny, just looking at the different things and you being down at Tampa. What year was that? Was that 19?
2019, yeah.
19. Okay. So Clemson was playing in the Natty. I was just done. It was the year after I was done. And the national championship game was in Tampa. And I'll never forget walking around with my dad in their gym, because that's just what we love to do. And it's not the nicest. It's not the coolest place. And I'm looking around and I'm talking with my father, not negatively, but just saying, man, this is kind of interesting. I thought the NFL would be top of the line, best of the best. So maybe it's changed since, but one of the staff members overheard me and they said, well, imagine if you had to pay Deshaun Watson $150 million. Like, it's different. We have to put our resources there. So it's fascinating to hear about your recruiting deal and how they can Pittsburgh can put more into different things than maybe the NFL can. I also kind of, what about like the man making and the development? It feels like there's a big difference there, where maybe in college you have much more of an opportunity to do that than maybe the NFL.
Yeah, I think there is, because that's the ultimate goal, especially in college, because you're taking young men out of high school and you're mentoring them. And that's how we judge our success. If I forget the combine numbers, the wins and losses, that's very important. That's why we do this. But the biggest reason why we do this is, we'll know success 10, 20 years down the road. That's the reality. And that's 10, 20 years down the road when we see our guys that have been through, the NFL, whatever it may be in life, and they're good husbands, loving fathers, good employees, good employers. That's the stuff that we're trying to instill, right? That's the most important thing for us. That's our success. So yeah, we get to make an impact at a young man to develop him into what's supposed to be a man. But in the NFL, it's the same thing. It's just a different relationship. But I think equally, where people get this screwed up, they feel like college is more of, I'm sitting here telling you exactly what to do and you're going to do it. But that's not the approach. It shouldn't be the approach. You're a human being. I'm a human being. My job is to make you better, and your job is to perform as best you can to help me stay at my job, right? So the relationships are huge. So the impact you make on an individual, whether they be a college player or NFL player, I don't think it's much. It's very different. I mean, I think it's a different in the aspect of a guy might need to, go pick up their kids from school in the National Football League, and they got something going on with their house. Where here, you might not get, you still might get that, but it's not as prevalent. But I think relationships are the same in life. The role of a strength and conditioning coach and a coach in general is be as selfless as you possibly can in the pursuit of making somebody as the best they possibly could be. And to do so, it's all about relationships and the impact you make on an individual. You should always strive to make them the best versions of themselves, rather it be physically, emotionally, psychologically, whatever it may be. So I think the approach is I don't see the difference too much, but that's just my nature. Other people might see it a little bit more different in that sense, but I always just got to take everything. I don't care if I'm here or Girard High School or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I kind of treated everybody the same and had the same goal to maximize their potential as a human being.
I would imagine, having that approach and that mindset about, you're a human being, I'm a human being. This, the wins and losses are important, but there's other things, in our relationship that are really going to, count for success. With that being said, being so big on the relationship component, did you find in the NFL that like getting player buy-in as a coach was any different or more difficult as a head guy with college athletes?
Yeah, I think when I first got to Tampa, it was kind of smooth. Honestly, we had such great people. Bruce Arians had a culture that was fantastic. I mean, I loved everything about it. That coaching staff and the people they brought in and how they conduct themselves and what they did made it easy. And same with University of Pittsburgh when I got here. NFL the weird thing was when I was down there, I was 25, 26 years old, So when these guys found out that I was, younger than them, it's kind of like, you're how old? And then here, when I got to Pittsburgh, I was 27 when I got here to Pittsburgh.
Dang.
I think they all thought I was 37, so they didn't really learn my age till like years after.
It's just part of it, figuring it out. Well, you mentioned that, and you mentioned, being 27 and being the head guy and being hired at Pittsburgh. What was that process like, and getting that call? And did you feel like you were ready? Was it a surprise? What was the whole process like for you?
It was a shock. So I was at Tampa in the weight room. I was squatting, and I tweaked my trap. I was just like just gripping that bar down. Because my neck and shoulders are all jacked up from playing. So sometimes I tweak something. I can't turn my head. So I'm trying to get a lax ball on my shoulders. I get a call because my boss down there was Anthony Paroli, who's out from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. So I'm hearing all this stuff going on at Pitt. I was like, man, I'd really love to be at Pitt. That'd be cool. But I was on Coach Arians' staff. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved, the players, the organization that Tampa Bay Buccaneers have is phenomenal. It was great. So I wasn't looking to leave. I get a phone call on Pat Narduzzi. So I answer, and I think he's calling to reference somebody. And then me and him are just, talking junk to each other. It was him and Charlie Partridge were on the call. We start talking. He said, we want to Zoom. I said, all right, let's Zoom call. Zoom call the next day. He said, hey, we want to fly you up here. I said, all right. I didn't think I had a chance. I thought I was ready. I was arrogant and got the job, flew up here, flew back down to Tampa, stayed there for a day, packed my stuff, flew back up, and then COVID hit. And so that was a punch in the mouth. So, yeah.
So your first year at Pitt was a COVID year.
My first year as a head strength coach was a COVID year.
Wow.
So not only are you transitioning, from the NFL, okay, cool, young, arrogant, but now you got the head spot and it's COVID. So you got, the stress of not necessarily stress, but just the change of you're stepping into the head, you're the guy, but now you got a pandemic. Like, how do you adjust to that? And just what were your thoughts during that time?
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I was, there's such a learning curve that you don't really know. When you're an assistant, you look at everything. I do it this way. I do. When you're in the seat, you're sitting there like, oh, crap.
We can if we want. We could do it that way if we want.
Yeah, 100%. And then we're sitting there, and The pandemic was crazy. There was so much that happened in 2020 that, you go cross-eyed, and the biggest thing was just to ensure that we're doing whatever we possibly can do to better the athletes and just be there for the athletes through everything that happened in 2020. So you're drinking from a fire hose, working with doctors on protocols, being on, Zoom calls. I'm in a house that I'm renting. Like, I don't know I hardly know the guys because I got hired late too. It wasn't like at the end of the year. I think it was 2 weeks after the NFL season. I got brought in, and we had 5 weeks.
So you literally got hired and COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 5 weeks of training, got 1 week of 4 or 5 weeks of training, 1 week of spring ball, went away for spring break, and then we didn't come back till June.
Wow.
Yeah. That we had to organize. We did like 12 groups of 10 athletes at a time, had the logistics where nobody's crossing paths. We're spraying stuff down, we're masked up, we're doing all this stuff. And that was my first year.
Wow,
man,
that is insane. I mean, that's a crazy foundation, even to think about, like your first gig as the head guy and how you've built upon it, kind of now, I guess, coming out of it, and just to reflect, on these past 4 years, what are some things, I guess, that you've learned that you continue to get better at, that, you've just, as the guy, and I don't know, it's hard to count that as a year one, but as you kind of went on, what were some of the bigger moments that you're like, okay, this is something we can really build on?
I think the big things that I've learned probably are, I think the biggest thing is everything that we talk about in a strength and conditioning sense, right? The numbers, the objective data, all the sports science, the KPIs, all of that. None of that means anything unless you love the athletes you're training and coaching and the people that you work with. All right. So the culture and the environment that you create is just as important as the program you write. You can have the best program ever, but also learn that the best program out there is the one that you're not doing. Right. All the principles, all the methods, all the technology, all of that is so important, but it means nothing if you don't have a culture and a love for the people you're training and a genuine care for them. So that was probably the biggest thing I learned. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers and the minutiae detail of movements and, the science and the practice of strength and conditioning. But unless you have a genuine love and care for each one of those athletes and the betterment of their careers, it means nothing, because it's just words and numbers without substance.
So, we've talked a lot about your philosophy on your relationships with your players and things like that. And, as a coach myself, I talk to my wife all the time. I'm just like, I've said it before, and it can kind of sound, what's the word I'm looking for? But it can kind of just sound rude or degrading to someone. It's like anybody can write something on a piece of paper. You stick with it long enough, you get better. But not everyone can develop those interpersonal, communication skills, just those one-on-one relationships, because you got, a whole team of athletes that you still have to get to know on an individual basis. So having that covered, what are you like outside of that? Like when you take off your human being hat and then you throw on the coach hat, you put your whistle on, does the switch flip, or are you still kind of, Stacc the humanitarian?
Ike, you must not have heard me. He's from Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. This ain't,
right.
This ain't no. I ain't hugging everybody coming in the door.
Right.
and
just let them know.
Here's the thing: that the reality is that, using the terms like you got to love what you're doing, love the players and all of that. That's what it is. But there's a short distance between a pat in the back and a kick in the ass. And the thing is, our job's not to coach them to who they are. I'm not. I tell these guys all the time. You come in here. I'm not going to be the nicest guy in this environment. Like we got, Aaron Donald hooked us weight room up. We got speakers going. I want a chaotic environment in here.
Yeah.
I want controlled chaos. I want guys competing. I want guys talking trash. I want it hectic in here. I want it borderline violent in the weight room. And the thing is, like, I'm not to coach you to who you are right now. My job's to coach you to who you're supposed to be.
Right.
And I can't do that by being super nice to you. And I ain't gonna sit here and, talk about you personally. I'm gonna talk about your strength and conditioning and your football.
Right.
Don't take it personal. I like you as a person.
Yeah.
But
I need you better as a player.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get to
This is business.
Hey, you're sandbagging, run faster.
Right.
This guy
Oh,
just
yeah.
whooped you. Get going.
Right. Right.
It's the nature of it. And
Absolutely.
but I do also like having the environment where these guys, can come in and feel comfortable around us and know that, like, yeah, we're gonna bust your chops, but at the same time, it's out of love. That's I've used that word a lot.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But that's a lot of what it is.
Yeah, you ain't got to like it, but you got to love it.
Exactly.
And,
I tell my
those
athletes
things.
all the time, I'm like, look, if I'm talking junk to you, it's probably because I like you and I want what's best for you. So
Exactly. Hey, when Coach stops talking to you, that's when
Exactly.
you're like,
That's against the
Yikes. Not good.
Exactly.
Something's not right here. Something's not right here. Coach, all right, so we've kind of hit two aspects of it. I think the third is, really the science behind training, right? And the regimen and building programs and designing things to best fit who Pittsburgh football is and what Pittsburgh football is. Well, that changed pretty dramatically last year because you guys bring in a new offensive coordinator and Coach Bell there. You're flying around. The tempo is going crazy. Before you'd huddle up and methodically do your thing. Not that it wasn't good, but now things have changed. And I saw, an article discussing where you thought we need to change our training a little bit here to match that. What made you think of that? How did you come to that? And what, I guess, changes did you make?
Yeah, so every year, I'm not big. We don't have like a set program. So I don't have like Coach Stacc's Pitt program. This is what we do each year and copy paste. I don't believe in that. Every team is different. Rather it be offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, whatever it may be, every team's different, and every team's different year to year. You have different personnel that have different needs. So our job is to maximize their potential by getting them prepared for the biomotor and bioenergetic demand of the sport by their position. But there's also inter and intra-individual difference. So just because I have a bunch of O-linemen doesn't mean that I can train all the O-linemen exactly the same. They have different needs. And then we have a sports science team. We have Zach Witherspoon with us. He's the director for the whole university. He came from the Los Angeles Rams, where he was the director of sports science for 3 or 4 seasons with the Rams. So he's been coming down with football, working with us, with his students. And really our job is to reverse engineer the game, find out, the high-speed distances, the speeds, the velocity, whatever it may be, to establish our KPIs, and then program around that so we hit our benchmarks. So we're preparing them now, like all summer. We're not preparing them for the season. We're preparing them for camp. So we phase it out. So we build it out through 3 different phases. And I always use vertical integration, which is a Charlie Francis concept where, he uses cup analogy. So this cup is your central nervous system. There's a finite amount of stress that could go into this cup. So our job is to make sure that, all right, strength is about this much of the cup. Conditioning is this much of the cup, explosiveness this much, technical paralysis that much, to make sure that we're not overflowing the cup from our stimulus imposing the adaptation. So each phase of the summer and the year, there's more of an emphasis on certain aspects of strength and conditioning and technical prowess to prepare them for the game. So we do that throughout the year, building it up. Right now we're kind of in a phase where football, technical skill is building up even more and takes more of a precedent. I'm not saying that we're not strength training and we're not conditioning. It's just putting a little bit more towards those areas of emphasis. Through that too, each individual is different day to day. That's where sports science comes in handy, because we've all been there. We get under the bar, 135 pounds. One day might feel like 500. One day 500 feels like 135. That's where we get auto-regulation, our velocity-based training systems to help us auto-regulate the athletes. Looking at the screening, the specific needs from force plate jumps, movement screenings, whatever it may be, to make sure we're exploiting the weaknesses and taking advantage of the strengths of the athletes as well. And that's a lot of what we do and how we roll. And a lot of it is trying to optimize in an optimal sport. We're Buddy Morris, who started the Iron Horse here at Pitt, put it great in one of his deals. I don't know if it was his original thought, but we're not data driven, we're data informed. So we take the sports science and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to have objective data to base our decisions off of, because there's the opinion of the athlete, there's the opinion of the coach, opinion of the athlete's body, and the athlete's body is always right.
Now, do you sit down with your staff collectively and you guys program together, or does that all fall back on you, or you guys have assigned positions and things like that that they're in charge of for programming?
So what we do is we'll meet We'll go over the needs of the team, discuss what we need in the year. We'll break down the data from Zach and his staff. We'll sit there and we'll have a general template of a needs analysis. From that needs analysis, I'll write out a program that we meet and we make the adjustments accordingly to the need of the staff and the opinion of the staff, and the data marks that we have in the breakdown that we make with sports science staff. So through that, I do the general programming, then my staff make adjustments. The crazy thing is my staff's so good. This isn't just me boasting. This is the respect I have for my staff. What's on paper, it's not exactly what's going to happen every day, because there has to be a tweak here or there for each individual. So I'm not going to sit here and say I read 120 individualized programs, but at any time there's probably 120 different programs going on at once.
Wow.
So we program specific. We have bigs for O-line, D-line, mids, which will have ends, linebackers, tight ends. Skills will be running backs, wide receiver, defensive backs. Quarterbacks have a completely separate program. Specialists have a completely separate program. And then any injured modifications, we have them on a separate program. Then subjectively, like how we squat, we don't sit here and say like, oh, we all squat this specific way at Pitt. Everybody's femoral head sits in their pelvis so uniquely. It's almost as unique as your thumbprint. So to say everybody needs to squat this specific way, we don't do that. So we make sure that we're putting them in a position to maximize the range of motion while developing strength in a safe manner. And that's throughout all movements. We're eclectic. I'm not Olympic based. I'm not powerlifting based. I'm not a hit training. I'm everything that we can do. All my staff, they have different backgrounds. They have different philosophies, but we put it all together. So it's not my program, it's our program.
Right.
And I'm not naive in the sense of thinking that everything I think is the best thing in the world and that everybody should do exactly that. But at the same time, we've all agreed on a blueprint. The adjustments we make are discussed and measured and tracked and progressed, and we continue to do that. And that's a way that we individualize our programs as much as possible.
Yeah, and it works, right? Like, I mean, you guys, I saw this article 3 days ago, and Pittsburgh has, would you take what you get, and that's high school 3-star, 2-stars, and develop them into NFL talent better than anybody in the country when you look at the raw recruiting things. And a huge piece of that is the weight room and the things that you guys do in there. And so I know that it works, and I've seen it with my own eyes there, the product that you guys push out on each and every Saturday. And it is fun to see. I know, I don't want you to, I know you're a strength guy. Don't beat around the bush here. What day is your favorite day? What lift, what time? Is it squat? Is it cleans? Is it deadlift, bench? When this day happens, when are you just turned out of your mind?
Any lower extremity day we have.
Right.
Like today we did some acceleration workout on the field where we did resisted sprints and some prowler sprints and some med ball sprints with the guys. And I love it. Like I love the acceleration work. I love the warm up we do with it. Our staff developed a warm up that is specific. I loved even as simple, and as much as people hate warm ups, I'm like, I love this. This is so great. We had dynamic effort squats in today. Some Bulgarian split squats with some long eccentrics, long isos. Like that stuff gets me going. And then when we load up the bars and the bars are bending, when you get those Texas Power bars starting to bend a little bit, man.
Come on.
And nothing's better. We're not like a big Olympic-based program, but we started implementing more Olympic-based movements, the high pulls, the clean pulls, and things of that nature. The guys are catching. When they hit that sweet spot on the bar and you hear that rattle, the rubber plates, like,
man.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can't beat that. Yeah, you can't beat that, man. And the guys know it too. We had a force plate jump, like force plate jumps, nerd stuff, right? We had a guy hitting 26.8 on the jump. I've never seen that before in my life. I was like, oh my God.
Crazy.
I told him it sucked and he's
do better.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. I'm like, nobody's gonna believe this.
Right.
I'm gonna call him Paroli later, and he's gonna be like,
explain it.
Yeah, but that I love that. I like, I had a guy worked with me, Ben Onacchione, who's now at Wake. Ben was great. He always said, we suffer in silence, and we'll see him on Saturdays. I was like, I love that, man. Like, so that's kind of our mentality here too. Like, I'm not big on showing our stuff and all that, but
yeah,
I have a lot of fun, especially in lower body days, man.
Man,
get them
I
cooked
love
and
that.
cooking a little bit.
I think for myself, maturing as a coach and as an athlete is looking forward to a leg day. Cause like I tell E all the time, I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to squat. My knees hurt. But it's like, as this competition gets close and this is about to be over, I'm like, man, I need to grow up. You know, it's been a long time. Let's get in the squat rack and let's just move some weight.
Yeah, it's the best, man.
Absolutely.
It's what you got to do. It's what you got to do. Coach, last one for you. We'll get you out of here. Super grateful for your time. You mentioned AD, and one of the best ever, if not the best ever. And, you know, certainly the way he went about his business, Aaron Donald, his entire career. I know he probably comes back to town from time to time. What is that like, just getting to see that monster go to work?
Aaron Donald is one of the best humans ever. He's a fantastic guy. He's an X-Man. Like I've seen him do stuff in this weight room where I'm just like, once again, it's like, no one will believe that.
Right.
You know, but the biggest thing too, like I'm abnormally strong, just in the work ethic. The work ethic he had is fantastic. The guy has a motor. He goes and just such a good, you know, representation of the University of Pittsburgh and the football program. You know, appreciate what he's done for our weight room. Always very, very open for our guys to, you know, talk with them. And I mean, yeah, it's different. It's very special. And
Can't imagine.
It's great. That's the thing. Once you lift in this weight room, it's, you know, it's your weight room forever. And, you know, I love getting all those NFL guys back, you know, man, like AD's obviously a freak in here, but you know, you get Kalijah Cansey back, Savasi Dennis, Mac and Salvez. You know, when those guys come back rolling around, you know, it warms my soul, man. And that's what makes this place so special. It truly is a family environment. That's what Coach Narduzzi promotes. It's real. You know, these guys are welcome back here. They're part of the family. They throw on their old Ironworks gear and they get to it, man, just like they never left.
Yeah, no doubt. I know that's the best. Well, this was super fun, man. You are also always welcome back on this show. We are super grateful for your time and hope to see you really soon, my man.
I appreciate it, guys. It's fun. Thank you.